Restored Republic via GCR. Judy Note claims that President Trump has invoked Article 2 of the United States Constitution and declared the United States a sovereign nation under common law, no longer operating under the foreign-controlled corporate structure allegedly known as U.S. Incorporated. According to the message, this moment marks the end of what it calls admiralty law, rule, and the rebirth of the constitutional republic. The announcement is being described as a historic bombshell, with claims that the American Republic has been restored and the corporate structure of the U.S. government dissolved, bringing back common law sovereignty. The statement also says that on Thursday, March 5th, 2026, as Trump allegedly declared the nation free from foreign control, a Mossad insider warned that a massive false flag attack could be coming to the United States, an event supposedly planned to be even worse than 9/11 and designed to give Israel full control of the U.S. military. According to the claims, the alleged plan involved detonating a dirty bomb on American soil while triggering a total cyber and communications blackout, then blaming Iran and pushing multiple nations toward a global war, all while mainstream media amplified the narrative. But the story goes even deeper. The same message claims that President Trump and what it calls a global military alliance were already several moves ahead, and on that same day, March 5th, 2026, they supposedly launched the final phase of a plan to save the world. More than 1 million troops were reportedly deployed across the United States, while Space Force was said to be prepared to override every television, radio, and internet screen on the planet. The emergency broadcast system was allegedly standing by worldwide, waiting for what the message calls a final white hat go code. At the same time, the Starlink satellite network was claimed to have taken control of global communications satellites, cutting off what the message describes as deep state influence. According to the narrative, the corporate United States had already been dissolved, admiralty law was gone, and common law sovereignty had taken its place while 1 million white hat troops secured the nation and Space Force dominated the skies. The message then describes what it calls historic evening raids carried out on March 5th, 2026 by the Global Military Alliance, working alongside local law enforcement. It claims multiple high-value targets were extracted and that several powerful figures whose names the public has known for decades were suddenly no longer free. Their assets were supposedly frozen and their networks dismantled. The report goes on to say that the central banking system connected to SWIFT had collapsed and that legacy banks were now nothing more than empty shells with no power left. Institutions such as Santander, Deutsche Bank, and the Royal Bank of Scotland were described as effectively bankrupt due to what the message calls the long-standing practice of fractional reserve banking, lending money that banks never actually possessed. In their place, the narrative claims a gold-backed quantum financial system has gone fully operational across 209 nations, becoming the only functioning financial system on Earth. Every individual account, it says, has already been mirrored onto this new network while the old cabal-controlled banks disappear in real time. According to the message, the takeover of the QFS has reached peak velocity. Fiat currency systems are finished, the IRS has been wiped out, and the Federal Reserve has been left behind as a relic of history. In this version of events, sovereign treasuries will fund governments through tariffs and sales taxes rather than income tax, while humanitarian and redemption funds are already moving through secured military channels. The message concludes with one of its most dramatic claims, that the so-called 10 days of darkness have officially begun, describing it as a controlled silence before a worldwide communication shutdown in which televisions, radios, phones, and the internet all go dark. When the signal returns, it claims every screen will broadcast the same thing, what it calls the greatest reveal in human history. But after these massive global claims, the message shifts to a very personal and urgent request circulating on Telegram through the emergency broadcast system community. It asks for help for a profoundly disabled homeless woman identified only by the initials DL for privacy. She is 48 years old and has been living with severe ME for 29 years, including 11 years in the most severe stage, along with a diagnosis of small fiber neuropathy. The message explains that she is profoundly disabled and that her daily life is extremely difficult. Most of her time must be spent lying down because even small activity causes severe symptom flare-ups, making basic tasks nearly impossible. Her situation is described as urgent and heartbreaking. She is currently homeless and living in a small, noisy motel room with her disabled cat, and she has until March 28th to find safe housing. She has no family able to help and survives on SSI of $967 per month, which does not cover rent, medical care, or basic living expenses. Even after 18 months and 6 caseworkers trying to assist her, no housing solution has been found. Before becoming severely ill, DL was a professional artist and teacher whose work was exhibited internationally. She once loved dancing and singing, and critics described her paintings as color set to music. The message ends by saying that Judy's team has personally known DL for more than 15 years and asks anyone who can help to do so immediately because her need is urgent and time is running out. Caitlyn Hunter and Janine Larrick Case. Janine Marie Larrick wants to go home. On February 23, 2026, I heard a knock at the door. For the past 7 years, agents involved in this case have subjected Caitlyn and me to what I believe has been an ongoing abuse of power and retaliation tied to a criminal complaint involving a police assault and my right to free speech. Throughout this process, I have attempted to place evidence and filings on the record, including discovery related to Caitlyn's treatment while in state custody in Dayton. However, Judge Williams has repeatedly denied or struck these filings from the record, including evidence concerning alleged neglect. I have also obtained documents that appear to show fraudulent juvenile records connected to CPS involving officials including juvenile judge David Bennett, clerk Debbie Bennington, and CPS worker Casey Cole. These records conflict with state discovery and appear to conceal where Caitlyn was placed and whether abuse occurred while she was in the Dayton Dimensional Phases group home. In 2024, I also documented what I believe to be perjury within CPS filings, yet I have still been denied access to proper discovery. Instead, I have been labeled unstable and ordered to undergo another competency evaluation. My filings, evidence, and documentation supporting my mental fitness have been removed from the record. Previously, District 9 psychiatrist Dr. Resner declared me incompetent largely because I expressed distrust of government actions and suspected corruption. As a result, I was confined to a psychiatric ward for 6 months while CPS took custody of Caitlyn, claiming I had threatened her with jail time. However, during my jury trial, I was acquitted, and Caitlyn should have been returned to me in 2022. These actions appear to have concealed serious allegations, including kidnapping, police assault, and perjured CPS complaints related to my lawful homeschooling and events at our home. When custody was granted to CPS, Judge David Bennett denied my right to appear in court while I was being held in jail on criminal charges that I believe were false. The case itself had already been void since February 11, 2019, something I have documented through exhibits. Now, the case appears to be entering another round of competency challenges, suppression of evidence, and continued criminal charges, which I believe are being used to silence testimony and conceal years of wrongdoing involving Caitlyn's treatment. If I am again ruled incompetent to stand trial, lawful family agreements protecting my mother's estate could be invalidated, putting my childhood home, owned by our family since 1971, at risk. This property also includes the resting places of my mother and my son. If these proceedings continue, the court could seize control of the property through probate. I believe this represents a systemic abuse of authority and denial of due process that has been ongoing since February 2019. Despite these accusations against me, including obstruction of justice and interference with custody, I maintain that my actions were taken to protect Caitlyn from years of alleged neglect and abuse within the CPS system. For more than 7 years, we have waited for justice while, in my view, officials continue to fabricate records and pursue charges rather than address the evidence. Closing note. This case represents what I believe to be a prolonged pattern of retaliation and suppression of evidence. Caitlyn and I are not criminals. We are witnesses who have been seeking justice since February 11th, 2019. We continue to ask for transparency, accountability, and the restoration of our rights.